you've won a Tiger 2 years before, 3 years ago now with Soldier Jane. It's good to be back.
It's great to be back.
You also love the design. You just told me.
I like the campaign of the festival. I think it's outstanding. It's the best corporate identity that you see when it comes to film festivals. But it's not just a surface. It's not just an image they create. I think it's as hip as it can be when it comes to film festivals. It's the most progressive film festival, and that's why I like it.
Talking about progressive, you have a sort of maybe a daring subject or a daring take on it. To fall with the door in the house, as we say in Holland. Would you say, is there still a meaningful conversation possible about international finance, in a way the subject of the film, or should we just dance the night away like we're on the Titanic with the band playing in the background? There's a big.
It's an interesting question, but it's always hard, to predict the weather, how it's going to be in 5 years. But what we have seen after the crisis of 2008, we have seen that the banking industry has just been strengthened by the crisis, and it's the opposite of what one would expect. That if my information is right, only one person from the 2008 banking crisis was actually jailed, and the rest is still there and stronger than before. So, having a serious conversation, reality is the satire here, and so our film is just a very normal take on what's going on.
A normal take, but in a way you declare art, language itself, politics, bankrupt. They've lost all meaning.
It's a big bubble, and the language they use is empty. And we all know the language. We know it from TV. We know it from the news, and I think we can feel rather powerless. It's like going to church after Nietzsche, right? Because who believes in God? Now there is no religion anymore, and the only religion that's left is that we are forced to believe in capitalism and the capitalism, the way and money, that how it exists now. And I think we're at the plutocrats' mercy. Our nations are the democracies are overruled by international enterprises, and we're just a country is just the key account of a global enterprise of banks. So we have to pay whether we want or not.
You mean there's no way out?
I don't know the way out. I think that harder regulation would be an answer, of course. The money, the way it exists now, is created fiat lux, means out of the light. The people create it in banks. It's experts in Federal Reserve banks who tell us what amount of money is out there. Mm-hmm. And we can. It's all. It's just. It has no connection to something you can touch. This is our economic system now. It is. It has no connection to reality. It's just like religion.
But did making the film come from a place of frustration, or is it just a sort of? Do you have a sort of humorous, satirical stand towards it?
Since, of course, we here in the Western world, and me as a white, privileged person from Austria, I can afford to make fun of a system in which I am part of. I think that is satire. That is how that works. And if I would have a serious take on it, we decided to do a film like this because reality is so absurd, and I have no answers. We only want to show you something that makes you think and triggers questions. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is I had to think in a way, I often have to think of him, but in a way of David Foster Wallace, the American writer, because he wrote something in 1992, 3, 4, or something about television. That television has become sort of bulletproof through irony.
Mm-hmm.
And these people, to me, also seem bulletproof. They operate on an international level. They use a language you can't pinpoint them on. You can't even find their accountancy somewhere in the building.
He actually is bulletproof, right?
Yeah,
In the end of the film,
immortal.
he's immortal, right? I mean, whatever he says, he gets along with it. This is one of the topics that are key for my life. The experience that I once made, that has to do with some legal trouble I was in, and just to realize that a lawyer and the right rhetorics can change reality by by imposing, by creating a truth that, of course, justice has her eyes covered.
Yeah.
You can transform this truth, and this is why these powerful people are above. They live in the clouds, kind of, and that's where also our protagonists come from. They live in the clouds above us, and they are also offshore, outside of usual taxing and legal systems, and that's why they are very hard to catch.
Yeah. Sort of coincidentally, it's not really the same subject, but I was reading Martin Amis' book, Money, from the beginning of the 80s, and I was thinking, what can artists do with this? I mean, they've been telling us for maybe 30 years that this whole very impersonal, very what's the word? Strong, sadistic capitalist system is there. It makes use of people. It dishes them out when it chooses to, when it's finished with them. They've been showing us that, but it's still there. It's more powerful than ever. And I was thinking, what can artists still do and tell us? And besides just holding up a mirror.
I'm lucky today because I'm not here alone. I'm here with some members of this European film conspiracy, which has made this film. I'm here with Gerald Kerklitz, who is the cinematographer, and one of the actors is Naoko Nishigami. She's WINWIN, actually. And so there are many people who are not here, indeed, who are all members of the European Film Conspiracy, which is a non-profit organization that makes this film. So it's not like many film production companies, which of course, and which it also makes sense to a certain extent, to make a film with to produce a film and as an endeavor where you create a product which you want to milk after and gain profit. But we have an absolutely independent spirit in the way of creating the film, since we start with casting the actors, which means that we don't have a screenplay, but we have this European Film Conspiracy Association, and so we also question the state of being of current film production, because we don't have a production company. And this is our answer. This is our answer to what can you do as an artist. We are not taking part in the usual way how to do this film when we question these usual market strategies.
Not become part of them.
We are not part of it. We are not part of it. The film, WINWIN, is owned by this association. It's not mine. It's not anybody else's. I'm just the face of this conspiracy when it comes to talking. But that's why it's also always important for me to mention that there were so many other people involved, and everybody got paid the same money on a daily rate. The actress, the driver, the cook, me, the cinematographer, the actors, everybody got paid for the same rate. So we had a budget of a very, very, very low budget, but we shared the budget on a completely flat hierarchy. Of course, when it comes to filmmaking, somebody has to be a cinematographer, somebody has to be the editor, somebody has to be assistant director. But it is not about money, because when it comes to, I've just been to Cinemat also, which is a great place how you can finance your next thing. But of course, the first questions that come up when it comes to filmmaking, after you finish a script, is how do you want to get that financed? Who's going to pay that 2.5 million that a normal film production would cost?
Yeah. What can you say?
Well, I never made that. I never went this. I never did it like this before.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, it's the first time, and it's a completely different approach. You're not independent. You have to talk and explain and find somebody who is interested in this. And of course, you have to get 2 million or whatever tax money to make it. Before it was 200,000, something like this. On the other hand, of course, we can pay the people who are involved properly, which we were unable to so far.
But if you take the art, language, politics, the things that pass in the film, co- are they still able to touch this class of people, this international capital, or is it really immune?
Are they really immune? I mean, I think with money you can really get away with pretty much. I'm not sure if also with in certain in parts of the world you can get away with murder. That is for sure. But here, of course, it's more difficult because the countries and the legal system is strong. But when it comes to like in Austria, there are investigations against politicians which have been running for ages, and nothing happens because they have accountants and they have lawyers, and the money is in some offshore bank account. I mean, if you think early enough of how to actually get if you want to be, if you do stuff intentionally, and if you're smart, I think you can do a lot and get away with it. I think it might have gotten a little bit more difficult, but for good reason. I mean, for good reason. I think in the 80s and so it was like anything goes.
Yeah.
At that time.
Psycho. I mean.
Yeah, and why that type of language? As you said, I mean, I think that when an investor or a CEO that is working internationally and he has the reputation and like a huge company behind him, whatever he says can become truth, even if it's not the truth, because they have marketing campaigns, they have PR campaigns running that shape a certain truth. And this is also why that shape something that becomes truth, which comes out of their mouth, even if it's a lie. And this is why we have chosen to use this kind of aesthetics. I already mentioned this connection to religion that I think that money has.
Mm-hmm.
Since religion is dead, now we believe in money and consumerism. We decided to make it look like Russian iconic paintings, where the Russian holy folks look straight into you, look straight at you, and are of course surrounded by a holy shan. I don't know how to translate this, and this is why we've decided to use this kind of aesthetics. We of course also know that from TV. We know it from talking heads when they deliver. When politicians and reporters talk on TV, you also have that kind of aesthetics.
You just mentioned that you didn't use a script. I was thinking, this world is a bit removed from from the world of filmmaking. So where did you get the experience, or is it just all around you and you just tapped from that, or did you hire highly paid consultants?
No, as I said, we start with casting actors and non-actors. I worked with Julia Niemann together to do the casting, and she and a few other people, and we meet all sorts of people. So we meet real investment bankers, we meet real billionaires, and they tell us their stories. It's not only just because of their stories; it's also because of the locations. Just to get a private jet was very hard. And so many other of the locations in the movies that we got from bankers, like also the private library is also owned by a big-time Austrian banker. And also, of course, we talk with them, and we write a screenplay in this research and rehearsal process. Also, some of the people who are in the movie are real investment bankers. One is a big real estate developer. And another one is a founder of one of the largest Austrian low quality, I can say that, low quality newspapers. He's a friend now, so. But it's they bring in that language, and then we create an arc of storytelling and what.
Okay.
We put scenes at certain locations, and then we were very lucky to get to shoot in the tower. The DC tower is the tallest building in Vienna, where all these negotiations take place, and where there's also this house search going on. Because we with that kind of budget, we had to get everything basically for free, and we were happy that they have a lot of room free.
What did you tell the billionaire what the movie was about? Did he recognize
What did
this world?
Like, it's always it's a. I got in touch with the billionaires with friends who are maybe multimillionaires.
Okay.
Because they know the multimillionaires sometimes know the billionaires, and Austria is not so large, and it's very easy. It's not so hard to get in touch with these people. I mean, they are there. I mean, Austria. When you come to Vienna, you go to Fabio's. It's the place to meet if you're a billionaire. Or you meet Michael Haneke too. He's also going to this restaurant. Everybody hangs out there. It's crazy. What Julia Niemann and also Alicia Pavelchuk, who was also involved in this, what they did is they went to bars. Two rather beautiful girls go to bars and talk to strangers, and this is how they found a lot of bankers.
But what did you tell them?
What did we tell them? Well, we make a film. We'd like to talk to you about, what are you actually doing? And of course, they are very proud of their job, and because they are winners, they make a lot of money, and they want to talk, and they are happy when there is somebody who listens to them.
They don't really listen to what you're saying. I mean, they don't recognize themselves in the story you're telling.
We use all sorts of material. One of my favorite international investors is Nikolaus Berggrün. He bought a huge German department store chain, Karstadt, for €1. And he was in touch with Angela Merkel and hanging out with all the important folks like Gerhard Schröder and so on. And he's a master of saying nothing. I'm really impressed. You have to see. But he also owns Berggrün Foundation, is a museum in Germany, in Berlin, and he is a big shareholder of Burger King, and he owns Le Monde and Huffington Post, big shares of it, and he's also very, very involved. So what are we get a lot of information from them and just put it in the film, and all the stories that they tell us, we want to know how do you make money? How did it work for you? And everybody is interested in telling the life story. I've been working with Ulrich Seidel for very long, who's another Austrian director who works with non-actors.
Yeah.
And we do the same, but just with another kind of milieu.
I was asking because of this immunity, of being immune to criticism, and not seeing the mirror in the film.
But they don't see it critical because they are winners. I mean, it's not. I mean, some of them they do charity. Most of them are very loving, family fathers, and there are few women. I have to say. I mean, you shouldn't do that type of research if you look for marriage.
Do you have any questions? Who saw the film?
I'm glad you stayed.
Was someone moved or angry by
I
what
want to talk to the angry people.
Yeah.
You can throw heavy things at me. Now it's the right moment.
No? Any questions? Director is here once. And
I can come back next year too if you have questions next year. Talk to the festival head.
Are you going to do anything with the screenings if it's being released in Austria? I mean, eventually I can imagine you would like politicians to react on.
We could invite every single person that we have talked to because they can take it with nonchalant. I mean, it doesn't reach us, it doesn't reach them, right?
Yeah.
It's not for. They know it anyway, and they know what they are doing. If you're head of a pension fund, or if you're there is one if you're an investment if you run an investment fund, you have no risk. You have no risk because there is a default swap, which means that if your shares go down, you still win. They make a lot of money. It's other people's money. That's very important. They don't necessarily invest their own money in their own funds, right? It's not their money that they invest, it's other people's money. And those who run these companies, they make money because there are transaction fees, because there are deposit fees, there are lots of fees. And even if it's a very small percentage, if you have several billion euro, I talked to one guy who said exactly this. He said, he has no risk. I have no risk.
He just gets wealthier and wealthier.
He just gets healthier and wealthier and wealthier. But of course, it's in his interest that the shares go up. There's no question, because if it goes down, he would lose the money. He would lose the other people's money. They would go away from him. But if it keeps running like this, and even if it would lose, then he would win because of the default swap.
But even if it's stylized and it's sort of there's a satire on, in the background, of course, are all these people losing jobs, houses after 2008 in America. A very painful situation. I mean, in that sense, you would like politicians to answer at some point for this, or maybe not answer, but do something.
I think the politics, European small countries like Austria are completely powerless to this. I think maybe Angela Merkel, she has a say, but she is nothing when it comes to Goldman Sachs or something, an investment bank that has assets that are so humongous. She has to go back. I'm sure. I mean, she cannot do whatever she wants because it has an effect. I mean, it's like more like leaning towards leaning against something. It's not like saying no. It's like do it a little less maybe. I think I don't. The lobbyism is so strong, and the power of these enterprises is enormous.
Yeah.
What can they say if? That's why they don't say anything when you hear them talk, because it's unable they are unable and they are powerless. They are basically really fucked. They are standing as the face of a nation and have the back at the wall. There is no space to move. If you give it up, then you lose because the system, the way it exists, it's there. We try to change. We have been working on trying to change the system of filmmaking with our European film conspiracy. I mean, very little has moved. I think it's now easier to get there is an understanding for this type of filmmaking. We got a little more money this time than the time before. But if we've reached the top.
Yeah.
We've reached the top. There is no way in making it like this and go bigger.
We have to end on a positive note, though.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.